Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
So at the end of each episode of Influencers Radio, you generally hear me sign off letting you know that you are the only real game changer. So what does that mean? Well, you know, we are bombarded every day with products, with information, with services claiming to be a game changer. It's game changing. This is game changing knowledge, game changing information. And I think we all know the fact is that no matter what kind of knowledge we have, what services, what products, what tools that we come across, the only thing that's going to make it a real game changer in our lives is if we are the ones that put it to use, that we are the ones that put that knowledge into action, those tools into action. And so that's what it really comes down to. No matter how great a product or service, information is, it's up to you to make it that game changer that it often claims to be. Now, we have we have a lot of coaches, we have consultants, and influencers, really, here on Influencers Radio. That's what it's all about. People that help facilitate that game-changing, whether it's a mindset or action that people take, help people get into that game-changing frame of mind. And today is we have a guy that really is someone that I've seen the results of what he does with people that just take him to allow them to see that game-changing potential that they have. So I want you to stick around and listen to what we have today with David Neagle. If you've heard of him, then you know what you have in store. If you have not heard of him, I encourage you to take a listen to this, because this is someone that's going to really at least get your mind thinking, get the ball rolling and understanding that it all comes down to you. It all comes back to you to do the things that allow these game-changing tools, services, products to happen. So stick around and we'll be right back with David Neagle.
Don't miss a thing. Listen to and download past episodes, get show notes, resource lists, and leave feedback at influencersradio.com.
And we are back as promised today. We have Mr. David Neagle. He is the $1 Million Income Acceleration Mentor. Now, that's a mouthful, but you're going to see really what exactly that means and how accurate that description is. David is a best-selling author. This is his book, The Millions Within. And what he does is he helps entrepreneurs and really just about any commission-based type of sales professional. He helps them make a quantum leap from their current incomes to, that proverbial next level. I'm talking about if the people that are making 5 figures a month, taking them to 6 figures a month. People that are 6 figures a month, take them to 7 figures and beyond very, very quickly. And not just by a, little ninja loophole piece of tactic, by really shifting the way that they think about what they are doing. And it's incredibly powerful stuff because I've seen the results of how this works. So, David, I want to welcome you to Influencers Radio. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic and just thrilled to have you on the show. Generally, I like to jump right into what you are doing and how you're influencing folks right now. But what I'd really like to know from you is what led you to the point of where you are today in, helping so many really smart entrepreneurs that have, kind of hit obstacles or maybe not seeing really what they could be doing in their business and reach their potential so quickly.
Well, so that's a really good question. I started off with really wanting to help people change their belief systems to get different results, because I saw such a fantastic change in my own life as regards to business and money. And it wasn't a slow change either. It was a fast change. I went from making $20,000 a year to making $62,000 a year in a month, and that was a big change for somebody that had never made more than $20,000 in a year. So it really sparked me to begin to understand what I had changed in myself to allow that external change to occur in my life. And then after, really studying for a while and figuring it out, I started helping other people do the same thing. But I was helping them in business, and the changes were occurring in a much bigger way. So it wasn't just a few $1,000s changing. It was tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, sometimes going over $1 million in really short periods of time from a relatively modest starting point. And I started working with just small business owners that, I don't know if they didn't have the commitment or if they didn't have the drive for themselves to, really take and, make something big for themselves. But it just wasn't satisfactory to me to work with the people that I was working with at the time. So I started looking for, a few years into my business, I started looking for different marketplaces. And I came across, at that time the internet was in its infancy. People were using it a lot to experiment with how are they going to build their business with it. And I think it really kind of set off a new age of entrepreneurship where people could start businesses and really build them. And it didn't take a lot of overhead, didn't take a lot of capital. They could really kind of do it from their house. Well, that led to, several different industries spawning. And I think that then a lot of small business owners really saw the potential of expanding themselves within the framework of how technology was allowing that to happen. So I stepped into that marketplace with the idea that most of these people really came from a modest background, just like I did, either a middle-class, working-class background, yet they lacked the value systems and the belief systems that would allow them to build a really strategic, profitable business for themselves. And when I began to work on them, changing their core beliefs in that area, and then working on the strategies that would allow them to experience that success, i.e. the sales, the marketing, the structure of their business, hiring key employees, this type of thing, we saw a real big explosion in those results. So then we decided that we were going to create what we call Destination 7, which was a community of individuals coming together like-minded to really learn all of these concepts and strategies in order to build the business of their dreams and make a big impact upon the world. And that's how we got to where we are currently.
I'm kind of in a unique position. This is the first time that I've ever spoken to you one-on-one. But the unique position I'm in is that I've had the opportunity to speak to a number of your clients. So I've quite a bit of insight, especially in the results and seeing how they've transformed. You have such a diverse group of clients from so many different industries and verticals that just about, you probably name one and they are in there. Some that are very, very esoteric even. In fact, you don't necessarily work with the guys they need a lead next week so they can make payroll, right? These are people that right. Obviously have a passion around what they're doing, and they have a level of success. But oftentimes it's that small little switch that can be flipped in the mindset that happens. And one of the things that I always am trying to figure out is, and I'm sure you've seen it before, is when I've met people at events that one is a six-figure, a month earner, and another one is just, trying to gain traction. And oftentimes I can't tell the difference between the two by just talking to them. It's not the one's smarter than the other or has some special skills or anything, but often it is that getting in there, finding that one thing. How do you do that when you go through and you're talking to someone to figure out what that missing piece is, that element that they need, whether it's tactical or strategy, especially with such a diverse group of clients that you have?
Well, there's three things that are imperative that a person has in order to be able to make that kind of a leap in their income or in their success. One is mindset. The next one would be strategy, and the next one would be the confidence to employ both of those. Skill set comes later. That's developed over time. But with a great mindset, confidence, and a strategy, a person can kind of circumvent skill set a little bit until they build it and still get really fantastic results, even though, to really master something, I mean, that takes years of work. But what I do is we start with the idea of, number one, what does the person want? We find out what is it that the person's looking for. It doesn't matter what they're doing. Like you said, we've worked with people in every industry you can imagine. But what is it that they want? And then the next question that I would ask a person is, why do they think that they're not getting the result that they're looking for? And I think what's important about that question is to really get an understanding of what their belief about their current situation is. It tells me so much the way that they answer that question, because then I know where to begin working with that individual. Once I can understand what the belief is that's causing the problem, or the perceived idea that's causing the problem, then I know where I need to go to work to begin to help this person see something completely different. And the honest to God truth is, part of this strategy is getting a person to actually see the possibility of what it is that they really want. Wanting it is not enough. A person has to be able to see it. Part of their belief system has to be that they can believe that they can actually get there. And if you can meet them in that place, wherever that is for them, it really doesn't matter. You meet them in that place of their belief system. You stretch them to the end of that, and then you get them to incorporate the right mindset, the right strategy, and allow them to build the confidence to carry out both. You'll see a rapid transformation in a person's results.
Now, you said something that I find so critically important that I don't want it to be lost here, is you talked about skill set. And you said that that's something that can be worked on, can be developed later. Almost that was a secondary or peripheral, element to think about or focus on. And the irony is that seems to be what most people focus on almost exclusively when they're starting out is, I've got to increase my skill set. I've got to really spend time on that, almost to the neglect or complete, just ignoring those other elements that you talked about. Do you find that to be the common thread amongst people that are really kind of in the grind and spinning their wheels, as they're focusing way too hard on developing that skill set without these other pieces that seem to be far more important?
Very much so. Very much so. It is definitely one of the biggest problems out there. And that's because that we've been basically raised in a society that says if something's wrong, figure out what's causing it outside of yourself and then fix that thing. And I remember when I first started learning how to help people with this, I remember my 7th grade football coach had a sign on the locker that said, "Perfect practice makes perfect." And it was confusing when I was in 7th grade, that statement. But as I grew older and had more experiences, it became very obvious that if you're practicing something the wrong way, you get better at doing it the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
So just trying to increase the skill set without understanding what is causing that skill set to be either great or poor, it creates an enormous problem. So people then get frustrated. And then what do? They start looking for something different that's going to fix the problem, but it's always outside of themselves. They don't understand that the first shift that has to happen is internal. When that begins to change, they can then view the things that do need to change also on the outside, but with a much different eye, different place of understanding.
And, it's really clear to me, and I think a lot of people that have kind of gone beyond and broken through that point. But, conventional wisdom always says people that if there's a problem, scrub harder. That's what's going to fix it. What is it that you do that breaks someone? Because, I know it's, you could tell someone that, but that's a very strong core belief that people have that skill set or scrub harder or, get better at this particular thing is the answer. How do you get people to buck that and to kind of set that aside so that they can focus on the really important parts?
Well, sometimes I think it's different with each person. You have to approach a person where their belief is. But there are so many representations throughout history of people that accomplished great things without knowing how to do them, and yet they accomplished them. I mean, if you go back and you think about Edison with the light bulb, right? How does anybody have a skill set with creating a light bulb? There were none. He was going off a vision he had in his head, right? So, there's and then we talk about all the different kinds of records that have been broken that were long-standing, that were really just stuck in a person's mind, like Roger Bannister with the 4-minute mile. The great Russian, I can't remember his name, with the 501-pound clean and jerk lift. I mean, that was, 500 pounds was stuck in people's heads for years and years and years and years. They could, physically the body couldn't lift it. And now we're way over that. I mean, it's just one thing after another that's broken. And in the first place that idea gets broken or that result gets changed is in thinking. A person has to be able to think beyond the limitation. If they can do that, then very often they can get there with minimal skill set and then build upon that into more of a mastery skill set later. But like my coach used to say when I was in 7th grade, perfect practice makes perfect. So now they're practicing the skill with the correct mindset, with the correct strategy, and understanding what is it that makes this skill work. If you're talking about a business person who needs to make sales and they need to really develop the skill set of sales, because a person can sell just based on passion and belief. I mean, we influence people to do things all the time just by our enthusiasm about something, but that's not really a skill set. That's just enthusiasm.
All right, David, I think what, a lot of people want to know, and, it's just the core of most people's, that has the entrepreneurial bug that's is an entrepreneur, business owner, is how do I go from, 5 figures to 6 figures a month? How do I go from 6 figures to 7 figures? How do I go from 7 figures to 8 figures? Oftentimes, I've been fortunate enough to talk to people that are in all of those positions, and oftentimes the solutions are very similar. It just happens to be the size of the figure, the amount of zeros is the only thing that is different. Are there certain things that people need to do depending on which one of those they're at, going from, a 5 figure to 6 figure a month, or from a 6 figure to 7 figure a month business? Are the applications similar, or are there very different strategies for that?
Well, I think sometimes they're similar. Sometimes it's a completely different strategy. If a person wants to add a zero to their income, they can do it in a relatively short period of time. But the first thing they have to come to terms with is the fact that they probably up till this point that you're working with them have not really wanted to do that. Otherwise they would. When a person says, I want something to be different, yet it's not different, they really don't want it to be different. So the desire to change has to actually be there. And if one of the first things I ask a person when I start working with them is, how much do you make? And the number is not important to me, but it gives me an idea what their awareness is around money. So then I know where to begin working with that individual. So if a person's at 6 figures and they want to go to 7 figures, they have a philosophy or a work ethic that allows them to get to 6 figures. Now think about this. Within the scope of time that they work, right? So we all have a scope of time that we work. We all have the same work week. We all have the same work month. We all have the same work year. But the amount of income that people earn in those time frames is vastly different. And the reason that it's different is because people believe that, when they say, I want to earn a specific amount of money, they create 2 set points. One is where they're starting, and the other one is what that specific amount of money is. What they fill the gap in with is how they believe to get there. So what we do is we change the gap. We change that belief system on how they think they have to get there using the resources that we know that they have and the resources that are there that they don't even think that they have. And then that's what allows that transformation to take place in a very short period of time.
You know, in some ways, this is kind of parallel to what we talk to folks about with the authority, because people often say, well, how do I start getting paid like an authority? How do I convince my clients or my prospects that I'm an authority to command those types of fees? And what it comes down to is it's not about them convincing their clients or their prospects they're worth those fees. It's them convincing themselves they're worth those fees for them to be able to, we often say the day that you can confidently look that prospect in the eye and say, I can help you, and confidently believe that, that's the day that you start getting paid like an authority. If you had to distill it down to, as narrow as you could, and I know it has a lot of different factors, but would it be far less in them convincing others that they're worth going to 6 to 7 figures and far more them convincing themselves that they're
got
worth
to convince themselves first?
And
got to convince.
Is there a secret sauce? Is there that one thing that you see people get that V8 moment when they realize that? And I realize it could probably be a culmination of a lot of things, but is there something that occurs that they got it, they got that V8 moment that that they've, the switch has been flipped and they're about to make that change?
Yeah, absolutely. So to understand how that actually takes place, you have to realize, so if we sit down and we were to analyze a person that says that they want to go from 6 figures to 7 figures, but they're not actually doing it. And we're telling them that they have to show up as an authority figure in their business in order to command better clients, in order to command a higher sale or salary or, price tag, whatever it might be. And they're not really grasping that. The question is, why? And the underlying thing is we say, well, they don't have a self-worth that's that high. But it goes beyond that, because a low self-esteem shows up in their life. How? What is it that they're doing in the interaction that doesn't allow them to show up as the authority figure? And what it is that they're afraid of rejection. People at a core level really want to be accepted by other people, and they're afraid that if they're not like everybody else, the people won't like them. So they don't let themselves come to the plate, so to speak, as an authority figure, because it risks people not liking them. So then they play it within the realm of the safety that they've created for themselves. When I see people that are getting ready to break through, the first thing that I see is they make the transformation of they realize that they're not here to be liked and loved by their clients. They're here to provide a service and help people in whatever way that may be. But whether they like them or love them, that's somebody else's responsibility. It's not theirs. And that's a shift that I see people make. When they make that shift, they're really able to accept their own authority and not be filtering their own belief systems, their actions, their emotions through other people's emotional stories.
That's really interesting, because I think I've seen that without recognizing that. But as you were saying that, I could think of about 5 people that I've seen gone through that transformation, and that seems to definitely be something common across each of them. So what is it, so we're talking about authority and how people, achieve the authority. Can you give some examples of, and you don't have to give, specific names or anything, but perhaps some industries of examples of what you've seen when people crossed over from that I'm going to be to I am, the authority in what I'm doing?
Absolutely. So there's a client of mine who was basically selling life coaching at Whole Foods and working her full-time job while she was doing that. And within a year, she was over 7 figures once we started actually working with her. when she realized that she didn't have to save everybody anymore and that she could be an authority figure in her own life. There's a celebrity that I'm not going to name that was in jail for spousal abuse. That I didn't even really work with personally, but just went through my Art of Success program and really got his life back together, stopped drinking, stopped using drugs, got out of prison. He wasn't in very long, but long enough. I mean, any time in prison is long enough if you ask me. So, I mean, it really lets you know that you've done something incorrect. You're on the wrong track there. But really got his life together and is, now, doing very well for himself. Had people that were in the market of real estate that, went from selling house to house to house, doing big land deals with people from China, doing $100 million, $500 million deals. And prior to that, they were just, selling the average house. Numerous speakers and authors and trainers and coaches that have gone from 5 figures to multiple 6 figures, from 6 figures to multiple 7 figures. We've even had people go into the 8-figure range in that arena. So, with every one of them, it's the same. It all starts off with a mindset shift. They know something's not working. They know that there's a destination that they want for themselves that they're really struggling getting to, and they don't know what it is. So we come in, get their head right, get their strategy right, help them build the confidence in both areas, and off they go.
That is, you said some things there when you're talking about those different industries that I even know and recognize from talking to some of your clients. And it goes against, conventional logic to a lot of folks, is that how many of these folks start making those leaps when they learn to say no? You talked about the lady at the Whole Foods when she realized she didn't have to help everyone. Do you see that when people start being selective about who they're working with and not casting the wide net, because we talk a lot about micro specialization, when they stop casting the wide net and start being picky and selective about the opportunities that they take on, that can make a big difference?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the hardest things, we do sales training where we teach people that one of the most difficult things for a person to tell another person is no, to actually say the word to another person. They'll make an excuse. I can't do this. I don't have the time. I don't have the money, whatever reason, whatever story that they have. And in the case of these transformations, every one of these people, that is definitely something that's in common. They all have the ability to say no to what's not productive in their life and to say yes to what is, to say no to what's not working and to say yes to what needs to be working or what they need to accept in their life. And I think more importantly is they really learn to say no and yes to themselves where they need to. Because a lot of them, one of the things that they lack is the discipline to carry anything out. And it's not, I should actually step back from that a little bit, because I don't know so much if it's the actual discipline itself as it is that they're really not 100% confident in what they should be doing. So they really kind of waver in that place of ambivalence of, should I do this? Should I start that? Should I try this? Should I try that? And they don't actually make any progress in either direction. So no is definitely one of the key things to a person's transformation, no question.
Well, yeah, that's fascinating. I got to tell you, I was excited to get to do this one-on-one with you after speaking to so many of your clients and seeing how these transformations have occurred, and really seeing people that have recently moved over and positioned themselves into that authority. If someone wants to find out more about you and these strategies, and I think the big lesson here today is the setting aside the skill set, the scrubbing harder and focusing more on the mind stuff. What can they do to find out more about that?
Well, they can go to our website, www.davidneagle.com. And we have various programs and live events and streaming events that are going on all the time. And they can enter at, whatever level they feel is best for them. And when they're ready, we can move on to a more serious level that brings about results quicker and faster.
Fantastic. I'm going to let you, if there's anything that I missed that you feel is important for folks, what would it be if you had to tell them, one thing, two things that they could take a look at themselves, sit down and have that heart-to-heart with themselves about what their situation is now. And I'll let you have the last word on that.
I think that everybody goes through a doubting period in their life, whether what they're really trying to come to terms with is the desire of my heart possible, whatever it is, no matter how big or small. Can I really be that? Can I really do that? Can I really have that? And that conversation that they have with that is either empowering or disempowering. You wouldn't have that desire if it wasn't possible. I think that's probably the most important message. I don't care if you're, selling newspapers for a living, or you're the CEO of a company, or you're Donald Trump. It doesn't matter where you are. Whatever desire you have, that possibility for that fulfillment of that desire already exists, or you wouldn't have the desire. So an empowering conversation should be, the desire here is for a reason. I wouldn't have it if it wasn't for a reason. What do I need to do next for the fulfillment of that desire? And then watch what shows up in your life, because it'll show up just like that. I mean, it just shows it's already there. We're just not seeing it. So when you have a disempowering conversation, you don't see the opportunity. When you have a how can I conversation, the opportunity shows right up.
Incredibly powerful stuff, David. I want to thank you very much for coming on today and sharing this with us. You are an influencer in the true sense.
Thank you very much. Great interview.
Well, there you have it, folks. I would encourage you to check out davidneagle.com because today, we went over just one piece of what David is so incredibly good at. And if you liked what you heard here, you've got to check out what he does as far as sales training and getting people in the right mindset and the right frame for selling. And it very, very, it gets a lot more granular than this and incredibly powerful stuff. So definitely check out davidneagle.com. And always remember, you are the only real game changer. We'll see you next time on Influencers Radio.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.